So it's supposed to start raining at about 7 p.m. tonight. It's supposed to start raining at about 7 p.m. tonight. As soon as I get done looking at these animals, I'll be going to the fertilizer yard to pick up fertilizer, and I'll pick up some feed for the little calves as well. But okay. So I've always so I've said in a previous video that the idea of a saturation curve is practically how I do everything, right? And it may sound difficult, but in reality it's not too complicated. And this is also why I suggest things like, I'm not suggesting that people go and purchase solo cups and buy potting soil and buy tomato seeds, because that's gonna be what makes you $60,000 a year. I'm just saying that it's very important. I put emphasis on experience, right? Because the whole thing about this business is that if you don't have a massive amount of experience, you will not be able to run this business. You will fail, and then you will lose all your money. I guarantee it. I mean, I would be willing, like if I took that bet, like 10-to-1 odds, for the amount of times that I was correct, I would still come out very profitable. Very profitable. I mean, I would be willing to take that bet, 10-to-1 odds. If you look to get into this business and you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna lose all your money. You're gonna lose all your money, and I know that may not sound like La La Land to you, but we're gonna just have to deal with reality for what it is, right? I mean, if we can't just go walking around and be ignorant and a moron, because in reality, if that happens, your life is gonna be miserable, and I don't want that for you. And so the idea of a saturation curve, right? It's very simple. Okay, so when I look at my life, I've done a lot. You gotta think about me, the whole way, the entire way that I got here. I was doing a saturation curve on everything. I was doing a saturation curve on everything. The feed that I'm giving the animals, the fertilizer that I'm putting in the grass, on the soil. Not only because fertilizers, there's a lot of different fertilizers: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, calcium, manganese, boron, everything, right? Iron. There's everything. And so the thing about fertilizer is that you have to run a saturation curve for each one, but there are a lot of things that you don't really have to worry about. Like if your soil has a copper deficiency, I mean, I don't know what, but okay, here's the thing about a copper deficiency and stuff like that, is that if these animals are eating feed from an external source, like if I have corn put away in a grain silo, or if I bring in a bagged feed, and that feed will have small amounts of stuff like copper and stuff in it. And so if I'm bringing in feed from an external source and these animals are eating feed from an external source, they will be collecting the minerals of the external source. And so that's ultimately the minerals, the real small ones, will be replenished. I haven't personally ever seen a field with something like a copper or a copper deficiency. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen a boron deficiency. I haven't seen that before in my entire life. And I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I still have yet to ever see a copper deficiency or a boron deficiency or something like that. Selenium, I haven't personally seen a selenium deficiency. I know that if there is I'm gonna have to take a look at that animal. But well, that animal looks okay. Maybe he just choked on a piece of corn. But a lot of the times it's the big ones: nitrogen, phosphorus, calcium, sulfur, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, sulfur. Those are usually the 5 big ones, and I have personally seen an iron deficiency as well. And so iron deficiencies happen pretty frequently as well. Okay, but the idea of a saturation curve is that, okay, so when I look back at my life and how I got here, I was not born this good at running cattle. I was not born this good at running cattle. I was not born this good at growing grass. I was not born this good at running a business. I just wasn't. And if you think that I was, I mean, you are going 180 degrees in the wrong direction, and you are just gonna die you are just gonna die as you lived, and there was no hope for you. I mean, legitimately. I was not born this good at running cattle. I was not born this good at growing grass. I was not born this good at running a business. And the thing about all of this is that if this was even remotely easy, somebody else would also be doing it. I would not be driving around, looking around at people's farms and not seeing a single person do this. It's you know, making $60,000, $70,000 a year on a 10-acre farm is very good. I know a lot of people, they don't, you know, they don't really understand that, because a lot of people, well, one, they're not, they don't have any idea of what a farm is, right? They haven't ever been on a farm before in their entire life. They don't know what a farm is. They haven't spent even 10 minutes farming. I mean, they honestly do not know, right? And so, you know, making $60,000, $70,000 a year on a 10-acre farm is very good. It's very good. And so, but the idea of a saturation curve, this is a very easy way to put it. If I was gonna run okay, so when I first started, I started off with bagged feed, right? I would give these animals a bagged feed, and I would give them anything from a 10% up to about a 15% or 16%, something like that. I don't exactly remember how high I went, but even now I still use a 14% creep pellet. And so okay, so here's the things that when you go to pick up your feed, this is also why I highly suggest that, like me personally, if someone does not give a forage analysis for their hay, I will not buy it. I will not buy it, because it's like it takes like $10 to run a forage analysis on the hay, and it will tell you the protein concentration, the net digestibility. It will tell you everything, the calcium, the phosphorus. It will tell you everything. And so I need to have that forage analysis. If I don't have a forage analysis, I will not purchase the hay. And oh yeah, that's where the 16%. I actually utilized a 16% soybean hay that was 55% energy or 58% energy or something like that. I've utilized that hay before too, and the animals actually did very good on it. I think that it was more to do with the fiber concentration. I was very focused on the energy and the protein, but there's also a lot of fiber in it. And so but if you go to the to purchase your feed, it will say it on the bag. This bag is 10% protein. This bag is 11% protein. This bag is 12% protein. This bag is 13% protein, and this bag is 14% protein. That's it. You don't have to do anything. You can just go look at it and it will say it, and then you just note it, right? You just write it down, and then you just go and you feed it to your animal. And then when you feed it to your animal, I've always said the parameters for success that I look for when I look at my animals, and I'm looking at, okay, did this feed do very good? What I look for is their manure and their overall body conditioning, right? That's it. That's legitimately all of it. I look at their manure, and then I look at their body conditioning. My animals are at a body conditioning score of about 6. A majority of these animals they're at about a 6 or a 7, and when they get to my farm, they're usually around a 3 to a 5. And so their body conditioning score is objectively going in an upwards trajectory. It's going upwards, right? They went from a 4 to a 6. How do I know that? Well, when I first brought them in, I could see their bones. I could see the bones on the side of their body, and now I can't even see their hips, right? All of their bones are gone, and I can't even see their hips. That's it, right? I mean, that's all there is to it. It's not really up for debate, right? Like if you're sitting there going, oh my God, you know, when God is ready, it's gonna rain, and when it rains, my grass is gonna grow because God's gonna bring the grass to my field. You're not gonna make it. I mean, you're legitimately gonna fail forever, and then you will die of old age. I mean, I just don't know how else. And you know, I believe that my relationship with God is good, and I still don't think that God is just gonna give me grass. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I believe that if I put in my efforts and I do what I need to get done, then things will be good for me, and that is what I call faith, right? That is what I call faith. I believe that if I do what is required, and if I'm diligent and I'm persevering, and and I just stay about it, and I don't ever give up on myself, and I just keep going, then I believe that God will help me, and that is what I consider faith to be, right? God is not just going to put grass on your field. I don't know how else to say that. I mean, if it rains, it could rain. It could rain 10 inches tomorrow and your grass would still not grow because you might be deficient in potassium. You might be deficient in sulfur. You might be deficient in nitrogen. You might be deficient in phosphorus. I don't know. I would have to go and take a look at the field, right? And so, but if you go to the feed store, it will say it on the bag. This bag is 10% feed. This bag is 11%. This bag is 12%. This bag is 13%. This bag is 14%. And I've even had animals die. I had one animal die from eating a 10% protein, high energy grain diet. I have seen it before, and so it's finding that balance. And that's why I've always said that you have to look at potassium you have to look at protein and energy. And the reason that I'm saying that is because I have had an animal die before from eating a high energy 10% protein feed. I have had it happen before. And so, and I don't want that to happen for you, and I don't want that to happen for another animal, but it's happened to me before. And so it's very important to consider both of them. And that's also why I check all of my animals for bloat and acidosis in the morning and as well as in the evening. I check them twice a day for bloat and acidosis. And how do you know if they're having acidosis? Well, look at their manure. Are they pooping up a lot? Is their manure very liquidy? If it's very liquidy and it has gas in it, it's probably acidosis. But also, if the animals have been introduced to a whole new, if you introduced a whole new, a whole lot of animals to a field and they're drinking out the same pond together, there's also a chance that they end up getting salmonella and E. coli, and from drinking that pond water that they're all peeing and pooping in. And there's also a possibility of that happening, and so you have to consider that as well. And one way to know if your animals are having some kind of a salmonella or E. coli, I'm not exactly sure about this, but and I've also read about this, and but if it smells real bad, if their manure looks like they're having acidosis, but it smells real bad, good possibility that it's not actually acidosis, it's salmonella or E. coli. But a good way to see if it's actually acidosis is your animals they will tend to bloat. They will tend to bloat. They will, if they're having acidosis and they're having if they're pooping up a lot of just not good looking manure, and if they're bloating, they would be having at that point I would consider it to be acidosis. And so, but when I talk about money, I'm not sitting here going, oh, look at how much money I make. I'm not trying to throw my money in your face. I'm just, the way that I look at it is that I see money as a very good thing. I see money as a very good thing because me personally, from my perspective, I make money when I feed people. So every pound of beef that I produce puts money in my pocket. And from that perspective, I see money as a very good thing. And so if I have a lot of money, it's a good thing. And I would even go as far as to say, I am happier making more money. I just, if you want to debate me on, I understand that is more subjective than anything else. But if you really wanted to debate me on that, if we wanted, there are a lot of people who say money is not important, and they say all these nonsensical things, and then it's like they want a handout, right? And they got all sorts of problems. They're not a good person, and then it's like well, at the end of the day, it's like, how are we gonna find out who's the good person, right? Like, if we were actually, how are we actually gonna find out who's a good person, right? The only way to really do it is to see, ultimately God's gonna know, and that's enough for me, right? I don't go around, there are a lot of people who go around and deep down their inner voice is like they're pathetic and they want others to fail, right? But me, I sincerely do not want you to fail. I don't. If I could choose between the majority of the people in the world succeeding and the majority of the people in the world failing, I would choose to see a majority of people succeed. Sincerely, 100%, I would. I just would. I don't get a kick out of watching people fail. I don't get a kick out of watching people be miserable. That's why I've always said, life is going to be hard under any circumstances, so you may as well do what's hard that's going to improve your life, right? Even if that is how I see things, right? And so, I make, I would say, on the average year, I probably do about 60,000 a year here net profit on my field, and I probably bring home about 10,000 a month. And when I include that 6,000, and I would go as far as to say that I am happier making 10,000 a month than I am making 3,500 or 4,000. I just am. I just am. If you gave me the choice, make $10,000 a month or make $3,500 a month, I would choose to make 10,000. I just would. And if you see me as a bad person for that, I mean, I just don't know what to tell you. I'm not gonna argue with you. I mean, you know, if you think that I should be punished for succeeding, then you're a moron and you should go move yourself to a communist country. Because I mean, why would you live in America and in a free country where if you wanted to, you could wake up tomorrow and go and be a farmer? If you really wanted to, you could, right? I mean, nobody's stopping you. The government's not saying that you know, you can't do this, right? I mean, if you wanted to wake up tomorrow and you wanted to go and do it, you could do it. And if you really wanted to see what it took for me to make it here, I mean, you can go and try it for yourself and go and see how easy it is or how hard it is, and you will figure out why I am saying the things that I'm saying. There is a reason why almost nobody does this business, and there's a reason why almost nobody wants to be a farmer. It's because it's miserably difficult. I mean, almost impossible. And so, I mean, you know, if you want to figure out that for yourself, then go and be my guest. And if you actually went and tried, I mean, I would hope that you figure it out. I would sincerely hope that you figure it out before you died. Because, I mean, you know, farming I would not have, you know, okay, so the thing about farming, if I were going to give advice to somebody who was starting, you know, and this advice is going to hold true, even, this is what I would highly suggest, and this is how I do things. I don't ever put everything on the line. I don't go around and say, I'm going to put everything on the line over here. I'm not going to go and put everything on the line over here. If there was a chance that I could be financially miserable by making a choice, I will not make the choice. All right? Like, if there was a possibility that I go, you know, well, I mean, this is kind of also, it's kind of, you got to weigh the odds, because it's like, for me to buy this land, I also had to take $250,000 in debt, but when I took the $250,000 in debt and you know, I took a $250,000 loan from the bank, and they were saying your monthly payment is going to be $1,100 a month. When they told me that my $250,000 loan was going to be $1,100 a month, I was looking at the number and I was saying, oh my God, $250,000 at 4% interest over 30 years, that's going to be like $450,000 that I have to pay back to the bank. But I said, but when I was looking at that and I was looking at the amortization schedule, I said, okay, well, from the very beginning, about 40% of my monthly payment is going to be equity principal on my property. And I'm paying for an apartment right now that costs me $1,100 a month, right? I'm paying for an apartment that costs me $1,100 a month. If I stopped paying for the apartment and just went and purchased myself a piece of land, I could go and I could, you know, and I've been looking to become a farmer for the last 14 years of my life, 13 years of my life. Then, you know, this is my chance to do it. And that was how I ultimately got here. That's the part that a lot of people don't see. Is the process, right? I've said a lot of people, they don't see the process. They, you know, you got a lot of people, oh, you know, I fell out of heaven at 7, and you know, almost nobody succeeds. Like if you, okay, here's a very good way to put it. If you look at somebody, right? And if you look at somebody, it does not matter. They could be 5 years old. They could be 10 years old. They could be 50 years old. They could be 55 years old. It does not matter. If you take a look at them, the chances of you actually finding somebody who is going to be successful is almost like 1 in 10,000. I mean, if you put 10,000 random people in, and God knows what they're going through, right? God knows what they're going through. Even if you make $250,000 a year, you know, let's say you're a top 1%er, right? You're a top 1%er, and you know, but then it's like, okay, if you're a top 1%er and you make $250,000 a year, there is still a possibility that you suck. You are failing. I mean, you are leveraged to the eyeballs. You don't have any savings. You're using every single dollar that you make. I mean, there is a very real possibility that, you know, success is, and that's also what I mean by like if I make $10,000 a month and I believe that I am rich, right? I'm gonna tell myself I am rich. because I make $10,000 a month, $11,000 a month. Who is that? Who is going to decide that for me other than myself? Because at the end of the day, when I look at my monthly statements, right, and I make 4 times the amount of money, 3 times the amount of money that I spend on a monthly basis, I'm legit, every single month that goes by, I'm sitting on like $7,000, $8,000. That's how much excess income I have every single month. I'm legitimately just sitting around and I have an extra $7,000, $8,000 a month in my bank account that I can do whatever I want. If I want to do this, I can go and do that. If I want to purchase hay, I can go do that. If I want to purchase corn, I can go and do that. I can do whatever I want, right? I mean, and if you're upset with me making money, I mean, you're also probably a pathetic person. Because it's like, why would you be upset about me making money? This is legitimately my entire life. I did not get paid until my 14th year. And so, if I stopped making money, all of the beef that I produce would also be gone. All of the beef that I produce would also be gone. The money would be gone as well. And is the world objectively a better place for that? I don't think so. People gotta eat, right? I mean, the people are not just gonna, beef is not just gonna fall out the sky. People are not just gonna live on good intentions and being a pathetic person, right? And being altruistic or whatever it may be that they got going on. But if you were to take a random survey of about 10,000 people, only one person out of that 10,000 people would actually be succeeding. Oh yeah, me, I make about 4 times more money than I spend on a monthly basis. Right, the reason that I made it was because I worked 7 days a week for 15 years straight. I mean, I see money as a good thing because when I make money when I feed people. I mean, these are what I would consider successful ideas. I have a good relationship with God, right? I mean, I believe that if I wake up every morning and I persevere and I do what is required, then God will give me good things, and that is what I consider my faith, right? That is what I consider faith, right? That is what I would consider successful ideas. I'm not sitting around going, oh, please God, please help me, please give me this, please give me that. Oh, I'm not sitting there doing that, because if God was a person, like if you were sitting across to somebody and all they did was beg all the time, they're not really good for nothing, they believe highly of themselves, and they're not a good person, right? I mean, objectively, I would go as far as to say that they need they need to develop their character, right? I mean, they need to have some better character. I mean, why would you complain all the time? And what's the point of that, right? I mean, what is the point of that? It's not going to get you anywhere. But imagine if God was a person and that person was sitting in front of you and you were speaking and all you did was beg and complain the entire time, bro, right? Or you just never even bothered to think about what they were thinking about, right? You never even bothered to do that. I mean, you never even bothered to think, what is this person thinking about, or all you did was sit there and complain about your problems and about how hard your life was. Do you think that person would want to be next to you for very long? No, right? I mean, they wouldn't. And so, think about your successes, right? And think about the things that, I do things that I don't want to do, and I believe that if I go and I do good, and if I put in my efforts and I put in and I persevere, and I got all this going on, then my faith is that God will help me, right? God will help me, and God will be with me, right? That is what I believe. But that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.